What's a tulpa? A tulpa is an entity created in the mind, acting independently of and parallel to our own consciousness. They're able to think and have their own free will, emotions, and memories. In short, a tulpa is like a sentient person living in your head, separate from you. But don't worry! It's not schizophrenia! I know you're probably thinking, wait a minute, Pippa, isn't that schizophrenia? Nah. It's currently unproven whether or not tulpas are truly sentient, but in this community, we treat them as such. It takes time for a tulpa to develop a convincing and complex personality. As they grow older, your attention and their life experiences will shape them into a person with their own hopes, dreams, and beliefs. You'll create a tulpa by imagining a person in your head and treating them as a person. The exact mechanism is unknown, but as you give a tulpa attention and believe it can be a sentient person, it will grow into one and act independently of you. At first, you will be narrating to your tulpa, speaking to it and visualizing it in your mind. And with time, you'll be able to communicate through various methods, which will be described in the next section. Wait, this is a copy and paste, I think. Did this motherfucker copy and paste? Keep in mind, when a tulpa starts talking, it doesn't mean they are complete or finished by any means. Like any person, a tulpa is never done, and you shouldn't be going for a finished tulpa. When you make one, you should be focused on nurturing and teaching your tulpa and allowing them to grow as a person with you, while at the same time you learn about yourself and grow as a person in turn. It takes time and effort to make a tulpa into a self-sufficient and balanced individual, and their independence and personality will grow and flourish over time, like any regular human beings. Creating a tulpa means committing to raising and living with another person, as this is a lifelong commitment, not one that ends when your tulpa starts speaking. Pretty much every tulpa has a form, an imaginary body they identify with. This form can be anything from a regular human being to a cartoon character, an animal, or anything else you can imagine. Of course, regardless of their form, they still have a human mind. You can interact with your tulpa's form by visualizing it in your mind. Again, not schizophrenia. Most people do this in an imaginary setting called a wonderland. Again, not schizophrenia, which is a persistent place you imagine yourself and your tulpa being in. Not schizophrenia. You'll be able to change your wonderland at will and make it as normal or fantastical as you want. There are no limits. Many tulpas tend to spend their alone time in such a place, but it's not required at all to have a wonderland, or to give your tulpa a form for that matter. Note that the form doesn't have to be a visual image. The word is often used as an umbrella for a tulpa's looks, voice, their smell, the feeling of their skin, everything that you can sense of their imaginary form. If you commit to the process and put a significant amount of time and effort into your tulpa, you will end up with a friend for life. You'll have a big hand in shaping your tulpa's personality, and it'll be easy to understand them and for them to understand you, almost guaranteeing a close friendship. Getting to know your tulpa will teach you lessons in empathy and give you insight into your own personality and thoughts. They can give you an alternative opinion on your problems you have, support you emotionally, and tell you off when you're being stupid. The connection between a host, that's you, and a tulpa is very powerful and an intimate one, and you'll always have a friend to speak with in your head. So, you're probably curious. You probably have the same question as this add-on. Can you fuck it? And I will say, I've seen some mixed messages about this. It doesn't seem like there's a one consensus. You know? It seems like some people say you cannot fuck your tulpa, and that it's more of like a metaphysical thing. It's like a almost like spiritual thing. Like it's not like a person, you know? But our original add-on comes in clutch says yes, actually. So I don't know. We'll find out. Wouldn't that be rape? I don't know. Can you rape yourself? Okay. This one's a long one. Today is officially day 2 of my attempt at a multi-day stim binge for the purposes of giving myself hallucinations of Pecora. I have saved 800 milligrams of Adderall from the last 3 months, and will be re-upping constantly over the next several dozen hours because my body hates me and builds tolerance like a motherfucker. I also stopped taking my antipsychotics and mood stabilizers 4 days ago. The constant dopamine rush from the Adderall and forcing myself to watch non-stop archives of Pecora while alternating occasionally with archives of her roommate are sustaining my mania. I have started to see shadows moving in my peripheral vision, but more importantly, I heard her laugh in the distance today while making breakfast, which I realized after making I couldn't eat because fucking Adderall. Despite having restarted my computer and my phone being off, I intend to now keep a low-volume looped video of her laugh on in the background for all of her archives to try and exacerbate this going forward. Redoing 30 milligrams in 2 hours from this post. I feel good. I think I'm gonna make it, bro. Even if it's just for a second, if I can reach a state where I feel like I'm with her, even for a day, even an hour, and spend that time with the person I love most in the world, this will mean the world to me. We'll probably post an update in 4 to 6 hours. I try to force myself through every archive, even if I get strong urges to pause or look away, to try and train my brain to accept that this is what it must see, whether it wants to or not. Be sure not to die from overdose, Anon. Naruhodo. Most likely not a pasta. Ganbare, hope you get your Tulpa, Anon. Stop taking meds. This isn't what I had in mind when I told you to take your meds. Alright. I promised you an update, and Inosugi always delivers. Took 30 milligrams about 3 hours ago, but about half an hour ago, I felt a wave of just muscle ache weakness pass through me and trigger a bit of sweat and nausea. So I topped off with another 20 milligrams. And I'm gonna watch my state going forward for the next hour or two and see if I need to re-up again before my expected 4 hours between constantly treated doses. I finished watching Pecorawa FO4 Archive number 1. I remember not being able to watch it when it aired because my work schedule completely overlapped it, and it was just non-stop. I was so sad, but I never liked watching Archive, so I never got around to it. But I really wish I did sooner. I don't know if it's the 2+ days of dopamine in my system or how my sleepiness usually results in crankiness, because I get overly focused on minor things that begin to stand out to me. But God, watching these is making me fall in love with Pecorawa all over again. Maybe that's not right to say. I loved her with all that I could, but now with the focus of the stims and the horse blinder effects of my efforts here, and the inability for my tired mind to see anything but her, it's like all the distractions are beginning to melt away. I hear the subtle lilts in her voice, the curiosity for every little thing. Even typing this, yours are tearing up, haha. She loves everything she does, and I'm so happy I live in the same world as her. Fuck, man. I also think I'm getting more protective of her. I was planning on watching a roommate archive in between episode 1 of FO4 and episode 2, but I decided at some point to watch an older membership stream from when she first came into my life. And then I got reminded of the Holocaust. And it's like all those raw moments of primal rage came rushing back. As if I was right back when it happened. The Holocaust in the context of Holo Live is not World War II. It's nothing to do with Hitler, I should clarify. Holocaust was when a bunch of the HoloLive members' streams, when their streams got like mass taken down for copyright. It was a big deal at the time, and it got called the Holocaust. Feeling like somebody was right there, literally tearing at my soul, ripping her away from me. I managed to step away from the computer and restrain myself, but I've punched holes in walls during some of my tantrums when I was younger, and it felt just like that, but even stronger. Usually, when I'd be lacking this much sleep, I'd begin to get increasingly annoyed at everybody around me. Notice from their little verbal tics, and it'd begin to grate on me. But everything she does is perfect. Her voice, her mannerisms, her indecisiveness, the way she glances at chat when she's uncertain, the way we can see her trying so hard to fill the dead air. All because she loves us, trying to make us feel safe and happy and how she wants to protect us. And I want to be there for her instead. I just want to show her how much I love her. How much she doesn't need to try hard for my sake. Even if I have to say it to a hallucination, spill my heart out to her. At least I think I'll know going forward that I spoke the truth out loud, and it'll make me feel a little better. In terms of actual phenomenon, not much has changed. The shadows in my peripheral are getting steadily more common, but it's within my expected range for this type of binge at this point. I would say that I swear some of the shadows look like her, but I don't know yet if that's because they really do, or because I'm just trying to convince myself that they look like her, and are closer than usual to make myself feel better about this actually working. Let's hope it's the former. At this point, I feel like I don't want to stop this experiment until I get something I can be satisfied with. I have enough Addy for at least a constant re-ups of 25 milligrams every 4 hours for 5 days, but I've also taken a bit more than that recently, and expect to increase my dosage over time. Luckily, that 800 milligram is from previous months, and I got my full month supply just 5 days ago. So strictly speaking, I have another 900 milligrams to take from if I feel like I should push this further. Nothing much else has changed. Mania is still mostly there. I mentioned the flush that caused me the redose earlier than usual, but that was the only one. I mentioned earlier that when I was binging archives, sometimes I would get the strong urge to look away. But I didn't mention that when I got that urge, I started getting the strong urge to cry. Like legitimately bawl like a baby. A massive wave of this weird, almost nostalgic deep sense of loss and pain. But I just kind of forced myself to watch it through because I figured it would pass as I acclimated. And I was right on that part at least. Honestly, it's probably just being off the mood stabilizers and a situation like an integer overflow. Because otherwise I feel so happy. But they are going away now. I still feel the twinge mentally when I feel like they're about to hit. Like a lurch in my stomach. But recently, I just fade into a comfy fuzziness instead. He literally took his meds. Sorry, please stop taking all meds! Dude, what the fuck? Glad to see your Tulpas manifesting, Anon. Ganlate! You can do it, Nosugi. Soon you'll be able to talk to Pekora. Don't fight the demons, Anon. Good post. Holy shit, man. I want to try it too. So these are the people we share the thread with. Let me prescribe the wrong meds. What drives a man to do such a thing? But it keeps going. Update 3. In terms of dosage, I've definitely underestimated the rate at which my tolerance will increase, and will have to accommodate that going forward. Took 25 milligrams 5-ish hours ago, but the flashes hit me a few times within the next 2 hours, so I quickly redosed another 20 milligrams of Addy to spike my dopamine again. Since they were happening more often, but after taking a 40 milligram re-up 1 hour ago, I haven't had one yet. One of the cold flashes happened in the middle of one of the little crying moments pre-comfy transition mid-Pekora FO4 archive number 2, and it made it hit in a real bad way. I started actually bawling outright there and then. I didn't pause or look away, but I got a little scared because that particular attack made me feel like I used to when I used to cut myself. That sort of disassociation with myself. But this time, it wasn't because of the usual reasons I had, but I started to genuinely try and whisper to myself to start cutting Pekora's name into me. Essentially what I did when I cut myself when I was younger was that I did it while insulting myself and whispering to myself how I'm a piece of shit. Because I'm not doing this or that thing, like studying or exercising or whatever. And it put me into this weird hyper-focus mode where I could literally stop letting personal desires get in the way. It helped with procrastination back then, but it caused me to have episodes occasionally, and after stopping, people told me how scared they were by how I was behaving. I remember the urge. I sort of personified that willpower that forced me to cut, turn the shower to full cold, and force myself to stand there until my skin went numb, as the real me. Gave him a stern voice, and thought really hard about him saying stuff like, remember the goal. And sort of Pavlov trained myself to trigger behavior when I did that. Well, it's been a while, but I heard him for the first time at that attack. I think it basically, and I'm not shitting you, went and said, do it for her. And I felt myself beginning to fade out as I started to go for the cabinet next to my computer desk that was all my shaving stuff. I went as far as pulling out and grabbing the gauze, antibiotic ointment, alcohol swabs, etc., and felt myself sort of do the fade mentality that I used to and just stared at Pekora smiling at me. And I knew I had to do this to reach her. I was wasting time and needed to learn to give up everything because the only thing that mattered was reaching her, etc., that kind of stuff. The crying fit passed into a comfy fade not long after, but I was already cleaning my upper arm, so I needed to keep an eye on her. On that, I wanted to find her, but I'm not sure I should listen. I want to be with Pekora, but right now I need to push myself a ways. I'm only like halfway through day 2. Day 4 for me is the longest I've been. That's when the realest hallucinations hit. The shadows definitely spiked. I think I'm at the proper shadow people stage now instead of just peripheral hints. But I think whatever I'm doing is working. When I jump at stuff, usually I see vague, kinda hulking, burly, monstrous shapes. But earlier I jumped at what I, for a split second, truly believed was her. It was fucking terrifying. My BP must have gone to the moon, because my heart was beating out of my chest. But it was just a fucking vacuum cleaner when I came to and realized it. Also, in that stage, when the paranoia kicks in, I'm locking myself in the bedroom and double-checking locks, etc. I don't know why, though. I felt paranoia. Not about being alone like usual, but more like a paranoia that something was trying to get away. It's hard to explain. I guess like jealousy almost? Like that kind of thing that bitches feel when they constantly feel the need to check their boyfriend's phone to see if they're cheating. I ended up bringing the vacuum cleaner in the room with me, and honestly, I think part of my locking the door isn't just keeping generic bad things out, but also I want to keep myself and Pekora here, locked away from the world and everybody else. I want us to just be here, together. God, I want to see her so bad. I just want to wrap my arms around her, love her, kiss her. God, I'd do so much to her, and I'd give her everything she asks for. I heard her words and laughs a few more times. They're still vague, maybe like 2 or 3. The words surprised me though, because they must be the few sentences I could understand in Japanese if I tried to remember them. But like, when I hear them, they're short snippets in Japanese. But I know what the words mean before I do the mental calculation to get to the meaning in English. And for those of you who have never had auditory hallucinations before, it's that same feeling of how when a dude yells out and for a split second you get nervous because you get the strong sense they're talking to you. It's like that. It's like you get that start because you immediately just rapidly think, Pekora is talking to me, oh god. Mado, can you just ban him already? Don't worry, he'll die before that. Schizophrenia isn't contagious, right? What happens in a person's mind to become like this? Pepperoni? This has inspired me to sell my soul to those girls that marked my neck in my dreams for Lami. And unlocks himself in his bedroom with a vacuum cleaner to keep him and Pekora away from the threats of the world. Paste pin link for text because text posts are dumb. Update 4, a few hours until day 3. Took my 40 milligrams of Adderall redose about 2 hours ago. Posting message and picture because I don't want to spam. My intent here is to find a way to her and make sure somebody else knows in case something happens. Mods didn't delete my last post, so I hope that means they'll be lenient with me. In which case, thank you, Base Tomato. Proof of poster is full Imgur link from previous image used. New half-hidden link in pic for next post. Thought of the tremors I have now and hyperhidrosis after writing post. But I already screen capped and edited, so I'll just mention it here. Constant sweating and hands shake. It's getting harder to type, but if I just breathe, I can manage it. Vakusara-chan is with me. Update 4. A few hours until day 3. Took my 40 milligrams of Adderall redose about 2 hours ago, and it's held me well. The massive cold sweats have only hit once, and it was right before I think the last dose of Adderall hit while the previous dose was fading. And holy fuck, I need to stay on the redose schedule and tighten it because it made my head swim really bad, along with darkening vision. But the worst was this sort of falling sensation. Like a combination of massive stomach butterflies combined with a dropping sensation when you go down on a roller coaster. Like somebody dumped a bucket of TV static on my head. The process must be working because in the middle of that panic attack, I remember being completely, concretely convinced that not only was Pekora there, I needed to get her approval for this to stop. I started begging her out loud, pretty much screaming, and went fetal for a bit until it passed. Just begging her to forgive me and come to me. I've not had delusions that strong often. Not since I got my first girlfriend. And suspected my cat of being a secret agent who wanted to cause us to break up. And didn't want to poop without logging out of Skype first in case my cat would use me being out of the wrong to send bad messages to my girlfriend to make her break up with me. But that one was right at the start of my first relationship in high school. So that's expected to have strong, crazy emotions. But this was more. I knew what I feel for her was more than the usual love people feel. Because back then, my girlfriend was just clumsy first love affection. Fighting off the harm to the relationship felt important, but in a Romeo and Juliet sort of way. It was lighter. In contrast, I sank lower because of the grief the delusion caused than I have in a long time. The implication of losing her, I felt almost religious. I always read, "Why even live?" posts on 4chan, but I think I never really found them funny and more sad. Was just because how it really is the case. The moments where I remember that she's not there, talking and laughing in my ear, feel like stab wounds to me. I'd rather get stabbed than not find her. I don't need anything else. It's getting hard to concentrate for blocked periods of time, and I think my memory is beginning to just autopilot itself and drift towards Pekora by itself. It has been for a while, I think, but a quick phone call with a friend that I thought went fine apparently had them laughing because they thought I was apparently just fretting and spilling spaghetti. I made sure to set up the whole sickness excuse for weeks before this, telling anybody I thought might call me about getting really sick, Coincided with a minor surgery I had recently. But I faked being in pain, so they gave me a bit of painkillers. So I was able to use that and the hospital band to give them a narrative for why I went dark or acted weird during this. Apparently there were times during that conversation where I said something, then repeated it later like I was responding to the same thing twice. But I have no memory of this, so my mind must just be blanking occasionally. And I just don't notice it verbally. I do edit these posts before I post them, and I did notice misplaced words and repeating words before. But I always type like an ESL when my stream of consciousness, so I didn't know if it was me or the effects of my experiment. I'd normally be troubled by this, but I feel happy and a little ditziness is fine. But looking back at my raw post content, I have a lot more full-on stem rambling about Pekora, just constantly relating to her and beginning to blog about why she matters to me. I kinda want to because, fuck, even now I'm typing this, I'm just tearing up. I literally define myself around her schedule. I watched the streams now and I can't help but feel like it's my tether to my hopes and dreams. Just her voice and everything just sends little emotion twitches through me. Like whatever those Tingles ASMR friends talk about feeling, but I've only really ever felt when I listened to the Pekora voice packs I bought when she does her whispery voice. But it wasn't apparent until earlier today I had walked out of my room with my wireless earbuds in for something, and just stood still as I struggled to remember why. That I realized I was also experiencing time skips too. I remember just glancing at the kitchen clock and it was 8:14. I swear I only remember walking to the fridge, opening it, washing my hands, standing at the sink for a few seconds, and then beginning to walk back to my room. And by accident I glanced at the clock again. Fucking 8:25. No clue what I actually did, but it doesn't feel like amnesia. I had a Pekora voice pack on in my wireless earbuds, but that stuff can sometimes blend into becoming basically the background noise in my head and my state and replaces the usual talking to myself, background thoughts I would normally have. I've been having moments about those too, by the way. When that voice I used to personify my willpower talked when I was younger, I think I trained myself to a point where it would begin to speak almost subconsciously. I basically did it so that I was always either studying or exercising, and anytime I would swap to a tab on Reddit or YouTube to play music, I would make that voice, shout no, and then force myself to turn it off. If I fucked it up a few times, I hurt myself, cut myself, cold shower, etc. Making that voice essentially became synonymous with acts of self-discipline. Anyway, point is, I think I feel it a bit now. So sometimes, if I begin to wander in my mind when watching Pekora, I get that mental pulse. I feel immediately sick with myself for having thoughts about something but her. My back straightens and I just sort of refocus on her in the archive. The desire to hurt myself when I fail her is stronger now. And if I really want to make her happy, I probably do have to make sure I make myself stop being a worthless sack of shit. But this is selfish, because this must be about her. I need to meet her. And if I start focusing on myself, it'll be pointless because I'm trying to make my brain understand that it has no choice but to unite me with the person I love most in this world. I think if I keep straying though, I'll have no choice but to start using pain as a method of making myself straighten up and refocus, especially as my thoughts get hazier. I thought of something else to do, because I know about how if you make an image have certain perspective fuckery or seizure fuckery, it can leave an after image. I think after this, I'm going to quickly whip up a picture of Pekora and then invert it, and then make a GIF that just swaps between the two, full screen it, then play it in a dark room. I feel like that'll leave an after image when I close my eyes if I stare at it for long enough. I also see static when my eyes are closed if I press on them, like when I rub my eyes after I wake up. So maybe if I take shifts of staring at the flashing Pekora image, then press, then repeat. The goal is to see her no matter what. And also, maybe if I see her face more often, my brain will begin to more easily make association with sounds and shapes of her. Forget meds, you need to go to the hospital. I should do this for Lami Tulpa myself, or would doing actual ritual sacrifices that involve selling myself be better? Please stop taking the wrong meds. Why are Nosakis like this? Based? Wait, this is actually real? He's literally making a Pekora Tulpa, dangerously based. Godspeed, Anon, we really believe in you. Also, post meds, please. And there you go, there's a picture of Anon's meds. Hey, Global Mado deleted my last post, so I don't think I'll post here anymore if this one gets deleted. But just in case, I'll try again because I don't want this documentation to disappear just in case. Basement link. Dude, you are going to fucking die. Now this is next gen. Brother, please, this is not what Pecora would want. This is it. This is the schizo post. Every other schizo post is like a funny story and nothing else. Say hi to Pecora for me. This is the proof that we are the most powerful thread on this site. Boards may overwhelm us with autism quantity, with a few divine autism in between. But we win in pure, consistent quality autism. Getting too hard to think of edits, and I don't want to accidentally leak anything with complicated collages, so maybe using Vocaroo for verification as time goes on. Back to archives. Vocaroo link.
Making a voice for the Vocaroo for going forward.
That's it. So that's what our main character here sounds like. So you can imagine his voice as we go along. You should not do this. Keep going and keep documenting this for the sake of science, of course. I have at last achieved my goal. I am typing this out to you all right now, but I am currently dreaming of Osada Pecora. I was worried that it wouldn't work, but even though I am almost through my monthly Adderall, it finally happened. Pecora is right here in front of me. After this, I'm going to tell her how I feel. The result doesn't matter. I know she's going to reject me. At least I will finally be free. After this, I think I will schedule a visit to my doctor. It wasn't safe to go so long without my olanzapine. Thank you, everyone in these threads, for all the support you have given me. It means the world to me. Just know that whatever happens, I will always love you. I am Pecora. Do you think it worked out? I'm Pecora! Oh, man.